Hey Snapchat, yesterday I did a little snapstorm on how to reference check. Today I want to talk about how to reference check and how to work with recruiters at a startup. The first thing you need to know about using recruiters at startups is there's two types of recruiters: contingent-based recruiters and retained search. With contingent-based recruiters, you only pay when you place a candidate, so there's no fees that are paid up front. This works really well for high volumes of people you need in usually lower skilled roles in technology or customer support or other areas where you're high volume. The rates that you pay a contingent search firm can vary, sometimes as low as 12%, often 15% or 17.5% sometimes. So you may say to yourself, why wouldn't I always use contingent search firms? Number one, the business model that allows them to work on contingency and have lower rates is that they're really high volume. They're just chucking resumes in front of you. Number two, they're not doing the search just for you. They find a great resume and they chuck it in front of 5 or 6 people. Number three, they don't do reference checking. They don't do backgrounds. They don't do all the other stuff that executive retained search does. But for many roles in a company, contingent search can be great. So I'm not anti-contingent search. Just know when to use it and when not. Executive search, otherwise known as retained search, is usually what you do when you hire senior members of your team, usually VP, SVP, or even C-level. Here life gets more difficult. They typically want 33% of the comp of the person that you're hiring. It's expensive. The best executive search firms want 33% paid before they start, 33% after month 1, 33% after month 2. What I like to do is 33% up front, 33% after you give me a short list of candidates, and 33% after the person actually joins. But what you can ultimately get away with is a function of supply and demand, and also your relationship with the recruiter. In tight recruiting markets like now, it's hard to get what you want. You also want to fight for a replacement search. So if you place someone and they quit or you fire them within the first year, you want to guarantee that they'll redo that search for free. Areas for negotiation is you might negotiate out bonuses and say you'll only pay on basic comp, or negotiate away any equity-based comp as part. One of the most important things to me is to lock in a fixed rate. So if I'm paying you 50 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand, I want to make sure that if I pay the candidate more, I'm not paying them more. That way your incentives are aligned and you never feel like your recruiter's working against you to somehow bump up the salary. I know they're all ethical, always best to have incentives aligned. Now's where things get tricky and where most recruiters will not want to hear this and will disagree with me. You and only you can have the compensation negotiation. Recruiters like to be a go-between between you and the candidates. Don't let them. They can give you advice. The recruiter can give you advice, but they simply cannot talk to the candidate about comp. When you talk about comp, look in the eyeballs of the candidate. You want to have a common understanding about what the opportunity is. And if the candidate's genuinely not pleased with what you're offering, then you can figure out whether there's changes you can make to meet their needs. But you want to know it yourself. Recruiters are like real estate transaction brokers. They're good people, they know their craft, but they have an incentive to move things faster than you might. In a study in the book Freakonomics, they proved that real estate agents sell houses faster and for lower prices when it's not their house than when it's their own. It's just simply human nature. No recruiter will believe me when I say this, and I love recruiters, but trust me when I say you discuss. You can get the help from a recruiter doing background checks and reference checks, and they certainly should help you a bit, but you need to make the calls yourself. You need to ask the tough questions yourself. If you didn't see yesterday's snapstorm on how to do reference checks, I'm gonna upload it. I've already saved it. Here's the deal. Recruiters end up with deal fatigue. When they've been on a job 2 or 3 months, they want the job done. They want to move on to their next assignment, so they have a bias to you saying yes. Because they don't have to live with the candidate for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You do. Every recruiter will tell you that they would never do that, and probably deep down they believe that in themselves, but I promise you, I've been doing this 20 years. They always push you to take the candidate. Hope you learned a bit from today's snapstorm working with recruiters and how to handle compensation, how to handle referencing. If you enjoyed it, tell a friend.